This is the story of the man who conquered half the world. As a young man in his 20s, he had already begun to conquer great empires. From the Battle of the Granicus to the Battle of Gaugamela, he conquered a vast territory that stretched from Greece and Egypt in the west to India, which today would be territories in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Known for his military skill, cunning strategies, and for uniting various cultures under his command. He is Alexander the Great, the conqueror of half the world. Born in the year 356 before Christ, this Macedonian prodigy rose on the pillars of ambition and cunning, transforming into one of the greatest conquerors the world has ever known. Son of the cunning Philip II, Alexander ascended to the throne of Macedonia at the young age of 20 years, in the year 336 before Christ, after the tragic death of his father. The young man took the crown and the heavy mantle of leadership to command the Macedonian Empire. During his reign, Alexander not only exercised command but, with iron determination, forged a vast empire that expanded from the opulent cities of Greece to the dazzling domains of Egypt, even reaching the exotic lands of India. In just 13 years, his empire opened one of the largest territorial expansions that the ancient world had witnessed. Alexander's triumphs were not only the fruit of his military capacity but also of an exceptional education under the guidance of Aristotle, the most important philosopher of his time. Alexander absorbed knowledge in rhetoric, literature, science, medicine, and, of course, philosophy, skills that forged his mind and character. It is said that he always carried with him copies of Homer's epic works, using them as guides for both war and life. In the decisive year 331 before Christ, Alexander the Great faced his most significant challenge, the Grand Battle of Gaugamela against Darius III, the formidable king of Persia. The site of the confrontation, strategically chosen by Darius, was located in the vast open plains of present-day Iraq. This terrain seemed to give the massive Persian forces, outnumbering Alexander's at a ratio of at least 5-1, an overwhelming advantage. However, Alexander made a master move that would surprise the world to take advantage of the opposing army. Showing tactical cunning and bravery, Alexander faced adversity not with fear, but with a brilliant strategy. Aware of his numerical disadvantage and the enemy's territorial benefit, he discarded a frontal attack, which would have seemed an act of military suicide. Instead, he devised a cunning and bold battle plan. He arranged his troops in an oblique formation, a tactical maneuver designed to balance the fight against his numerical inferiority and disorient the enemy, giving the impression that he was concentrating his forces to the right, like an arm ready to strike. Deceived by this clever ruse, the Persians fell into the trap and impetuously attacked the Macedonian flanks, leaving their crucial center vulnerable. With a large part of their army distracted on the flanks, Alexander, driven by a combination of adrenaline and resolution, seized the opportunity and charged directly towards Darius. His advance resembled that of a hunter pursuing his prey. At that critical point, the battle tipped in favor of Alexander, not only because of his mastery on the battlefield, but also due to his proficiency in the art of war. Alexander the Great's charge at Gaugamela, marked by relentless determination and speed, was so shocking and powerful that it struck terror into the heart of Darius III. The powerful Persian king, overwhelmed by the intensity and velocity of the Macedonian cavalry, was forced into a hasty retreat. The sight of their leader fleeing demolished the morale of the Persian army, which surrendered in chaos and abandoned the battlefield. In this challenging scenario, Alexander remained unfazed by fear. His tireless ambition and determination overshadowed any dread, demonstrating that his conquering spirit could overcome any obstacle. Despite facing overwhelming numerical superiority, he triumphed thanks to his strategic cunning and his ability to make the most of every opportunity. With this decisive victory, Alexander not only secured control over the vast Persian Empire, one of the largest of the ancient world, but also cemented an indelible legacy, teaching us that with bravery, ingenuity, and determination, even the most daunting challenges can be overcome. Throughout his life, Alexander possessed unparalleled courage and faced every challenge, no matter how intimidating, with relentless resilience. His self-confidence was as strong as steel, tirelessly believing in his ability to overcome any adversity. The audacity with which he approached life's problems was key to his numerous victories. And do you know what's most interesting? Alexander's leadership was not that of a tyrannical dictator, but that of a charismatic inspirer who treated each individual as his equal. He did not see himself above those he led, but joined them on the battlefield, sharing the risks and facing death alongside his men. Alexander the Great, instead of being a leader who dictated orders from a safe throne, positioned himself at the forefront, living the trials and tribulations of war alongside his troops. His approach to leadership was not just to conquer, but also to inspire, uniting his men in a common purpose and demonstrating that, with the right leadership, the impossible becomes possible. But this is the funniest thing about Alexander. On one memorable occasion, there was an encounter between Diogenes the Cynic and Alexander the Great. Diogenes, famous for his detachment from social conventions and his rejection of material wealth, lived in a barrel and renounced all luxury. One day, Alexander, the most powerful ruler of his time, approached the philosopher, curious to meet the man who defied the norms of society. While Diogenes was basking in the sun, Alexander asked if there was anything he could do for him. Diogenes, without getting up or even looking at the king, replied with his characteristic frankness, "Yes, move aside, you are blocking my Sunday." Alexander, far from being irritated, was impressed by Diogenes' audacity and freedom of spirit, and replied, "Do you not fear me?" as if to say, "I am the king." To which Diogenes responded, "Are you a good or an evil?" Alexander replied, "I am a good," and Diogenes said, "If you are good, why should I fear you?" Instead of getting angry, the young king expressed his admiration by saying, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." This encounter is emblematic of Alexander's greatness, which lies not in power or wealth, but in authenticity and independence of thought. Moreover, this episode reflects Alexander's attitude towards cultural diversity in his conquests. Despite promoting Hellenistic culture, blending Greek and Macedonian elements with those of the local cultures of the Middle East, Alexander did not aggressively impose his culture on the territories he conquered. Instead, he showed an appreciation and adoption of diverse customs, such as Persian and Egyptian, creating a rich cultural mosaic in his empire. Alexander was only 32 years old when he died, and his death marked the end of his vast empire. Some historians suggest that he may have died of natural causes, such as malaria or typhoid fever. Other theories propose that he was poisoned, although there is no conclusive evidence to support this hypothesis. The most important lesson to conclude is that Alexander was addicted to knowledge, achieving serenity, leadership, and relentless strategy for war. He was very fond of philosophy, as his teacher was none other than Aristotle. That's all for now, and tell me, what do you think about Alexander the Great? Would you like to learn more about philosophy applicable to this era? If so, I leave you some books in our store. See you soon and thank you.